New at 4:30, Virginia Beach native and music producer Pharrell Williams is facing a lawsuit. It's from his once longtime friend and music partner, Chad Hugo. The two started their music careers right here in Hampton Roads. But now Hugo says Williams owes him as much as $1 million. Emily Harrison joins us in studio. Emily, this sounds like a real falling out and really sad news for fans of this duo.
Yeah, Chad Hugo and Pharrell Williams are behind some of the biggest music hits of all time. Together, they produced Holla Back Girl by Gwen Stefani, Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake, and Drop It Like It's Hot by Snoop Dogg. But now, this relationship has landed in federal court. A once powerhouse relationship that started right here in Hampton Roads has turned sour. Chad Hugo, co-founder of the Neptunes, filed this lawsuit against his co-partner Pharrell Williams for more than $1 million worth of damages. According to the filing, Hugo says Williams withheld money and failed to report the accounting of their numerous shared businesses related to NERD Music LLC. Hugo says he did not receive his agreed upon 25% of the proceeds and claims he was denied access to the accounting records in 2021. Hugo's attorney, Brent Lehman, declined to comment to 13 News Now, but wrote in the complaint that many of Hugo's songs are also, quote, missing from label portals. It's also not the first time the music producer has sued Williams. In 2024, Hugo filed a complaint against Williams for trademarks on music production and branding. A spokesperson for Pharrell Williams released a statement for that matter saying, quote, "We have reached out on multiple occasions to share in the ownership and administration of the trademark. The goal here was to make sure that a third party doesn't get a hold of the trademark." As for this latest lawsuit, Pharrell's lawyers have not responded to 13 News Now. Hugo's attorney says he is owed more than $1 million just from the group's latest album, No One Ever Really Dies.
Man, you know, as a as a guy who grew up, definitely listening to these guys' music, it's this is shocking, because if you don't know the Neptunes, man, you've literally been under a rock, or even if you're younger, I'm sure you've heard some of their music, you know, whether you went to a game or whether you just listening to a playlist from the early 2000s. And but super producer group, the Neptunes, many hits, but it just seems like these two, their partnership just, when it went left, they just wasn't on the same page. um and it's crazy to think that they wouldn't be able to work it out, especially with how long they have been working together, and how many hits they have together. Of course, Pharrell has always been like the quote unquote face of their super group, because he was also an artist, and you know but from what I understand, Chad Hugo is actually the multi-instrumentalist, and can play several instruments, and has a whole lot of talent. He just not wasn't necessarily the face, but then you always seen him when they were doing their thing. So he was definitely known, especially for us who really followed music to that extent. But yeah, the first lawsuit, as they were mentioning, Pharrell's companies was looking to get the trademarks for the Neptunes, which is hard to believe after all these years. They didn't have like trademarks for the Neptunes, or if they did, maybe they expired. But it's crazy to go that long doing business in that high, of a level, at that high of a level, and not even having trademarks to those names. Um, but yeah, so for real, it looks like he was trying to get the trademarks, and they said they reached out to Chad, and I'm not sure if they did or if they didn't, but he ended up suing because he felt like he should have been included in that, being that they all had a part in creating what we know as the Neptunes and NERD. So he's suing now because he's saying that Pharrell is owing him, upwards of over $1 million. He wasn't getting his 25% of the proceeds, and sometimes this is just how business goes, and it gets ugly. And a lot of times, this news leaks into like the mainstream media in order to kind of speed up the process for some type of resolve, some type of settlement. Um, but yeah, I would have never thought it would have came to this, especially with that, as many hits that they've been behind, and all the credits that they've had, and these guys was getting paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars for beats. So very, very shocking that it has come to this with these two, and hopefully they'll be able to resolve it. Pharrell definitely, just continued on with his producing and being an artist, because he's produced for a lot of different people, recently. And I know he did the whole the last Clips album. He produced that entirely, and I've seen he have production on several other artists' records, but he either do one track or two tracks. So he stayed active. As you all know, that he had been a part of several clothing lines, and also a creative director over at Louis Vuitton. So he's had several different collections over there, and he's stayed in the public light, and so to speak, and kept himself busy, kept himself going, and just kept himself being Pharrell Williams. So this all could be just a big misunderstanding, and or it could be that Pharrell was trying to just keep all the proceeds to himself, but he really doesn't seem like that type of person. But again, I don't know him personally. I only know the image, or the character that he portrays, out into the public. But we never know what happens behind closed doors. So now that the lawyers are involved in this, I'm sure there's going to be some type of agreement or some type of settlement, because you can't take away the contributions that Chad Hugo had to the Neptunes. In my opinion, he more than likely was over 50% of the music. And, Pharrell come in and do, what he does as far as what he's talented at doing. But I do know Chad Hugo as the multi-instrumentalist who could, pretty much play all the instruments, and, do everything that needed to be done in the studio. And, not saying Pharrell doesn't have that same type of talent, but they are a group. So I feel like everything that we've heard that had produced by the Neptunes was a combination of both their talents coming together. And, I'm hoping that they can get this thing settled amicably, and, just going about their business as they are doing, as they're, going to do. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how, the money, when someone isn't getting paid their just due as far as what they feel like the work that they put in, and they feel like and Chad shouldn't have no issues getting all the financial disclosures. He shouldn't have no issues with that. If he requests, any type of, transactions or accounting of the music that he produced, it shouldn't be bells and whistles for him to get that information. He should, be respected a lot more than that for his contribution. But, this is the music business. We know it's one of those type of businesses to where people will get over on you when they can. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm gonna go ahead and close out, because right now, like I said, a lot of times they put stuff into the news just so they can kind of speed up the process, and I haven't really seen too many people talking about this. So just wanted to do a little reaction video, and um, you know, kind of give my 2 cents as far as how I feel on both sides of this whole equation. And I knew something was up when they stopped producing under the Neptunes. I just knew, there was some type of disagreements internally, and a lot of times those disagreements all center around money. But we'll see what happens. If you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. This is Justin Paul. Peace.